What's up guys, welcome back. So I don't know about you, but for me, that GBL roller coaster has been quite real lately. We were so close to legend, it was within our grasp, but we fell just short, continued to fall, and fall, and fall. And now with Little Cup Remix, I thought this would be something fresh and new to climb back up, but boy was I wrong. Those Wynots are everywhere. So I gave Ultra League a shot, and I'm glad I did. Throughout my sets for the day, I went 18 and 7, climbing around 150 elo in just a single day. Best part about this team is that it's a non-XL and pretty affordable one. Alolan Muk Lead to cover those ghost types in Cresselia, Walrein on the safe swap to lure out a potential grass type, or a Cresselia, it's in the back, and this would hopefully allow Swampert to sweep the endgame. I'd honestly recommend using regular or Shadow Kanto Muk over Alolan Muk. It just gives you a much better matchup against fighters in the lead, as well as Talonflame, since Kanto Muk has access to Thunder Punch. But you'll see that Alolan Muk does just fine too, as it's a harder wall to Trevenant, Giratina, Cresselia, those Ghost and Psychic types. You could also use the Shadow versions of Swampert and Walrein, but I prefer the non-Shadows for the extra bulk, of which you'll see how useful that is later on in the video. And with that, let's get into the battles. Alright, so getting into the first match, I lead Alolan Muk into Tapu Fini. It's a fantastic lead. My opponent's going to throw a couple water guns first and switch into Talonflame, and I meet it with Swampert. This is Exhibit A, why you want regular Swampert over Shadow Swampert. Shadow Swampert can't take a Brave Bird. Regular Swampert can. And it's very important you let them throw first, because that way if they do throw the Brave Bird, they'll get taken out by a single Hydro Cannon instead of two. And if they don't know the Swampert matchup against Talonflame too well, you were able to take switch advantage and shield advantage every single time. Just make sure you throw on good timings, 2 Mudshot in your Hydro Cannon, and you will outpace, take out the Talonflame, in this case, 2 shields and switch advantage. My opponent just realizes it's over, so they can see that one. Getting into the next one, we're in the Alolan Muk Mirror. I'm going to swap right away into my Walrein because I have 2 better answers in the back. My opponent brings out a Poliwrath. Kind of unfortunate because I know I'm not going to be able to take switch advantage at this point. But what I can do is I can bring shields down to allow Swampert, to give Swampert a chance to sweep it, the end game. So I shield the first Dynamic Punch. I know a Dynamic Punch won't kill me, but I plan on shielding one anyways, so it doesn't matter if I shield the first. Thankfully, my opponent shields the EQ as well. So they use up one of their shields. Another Dynamic Punch comes through. Walrein tanks that. And I'm throwing my second EQ. This one will most likely land on the Poliwrath. Third Dynamic Punch will take out my Walrein. I'm going to let it go. Walrein goes down. And now I'm going to bring in my Alolan Muk and commit to the hard farm. Alolan Muk is somewhat bulky too, so I'm not too worried about a Dynamic Punch, and I should be able to farm on down before I take another one, which we do. Here, make a little bit of a misplay. The Alolan Muk comes back in, and I'm going to throw a Dark Pulse first. I should have just held on to this energy, because I'm going to switch into my Swampert, and an EQ is pretty much going to take it out regardless after these additional Mud Shots. So, a little bit of a waste of energy there, but it's alright. We're still in a pretty good position considering that they're staying in against my Swampert with their Alolan Muk. So I'm going to go for a Hydro Cannon just because I chipped it earlier. This won't quite take it out, but we'll put it in Mudshot downrange. They don't let that happen. And because I overfarmed, in comes their Swampert. It's a mistake here as well. Should have gone for a straight EQ because their win con is calling a Hydro Cannon and then being able to double up on Hydro Cannons himself. So, but luckily, I think my opponent overfarmed. I'm pretty sure they had it, the double Hydro Cannons 1 turn before. But because they did overfarm, we were able to do a CMP tie, of which since they won CMP, they would have won the match. But again, because they overfarmed, they're able to take that one. And now we can just easily Poison Jab down their Alolan Muk. And we were able to take a close game there in the second one. So in the third match, another great lead into a Sylveon. They're going to swap out into an Obstagoon. So a fighter safe swap is pretty tough for this team. What I like to do is just go straight Acid Spray and then swap into my Swampert. That way a Hydro Cannon will take them out. I'm gonna call that they're not running Hyper Beam, as most aren't, so it's a pretty safe no shield. It's just a Night Slash, and now I'm gonna go for a Hydro Cannon, and I'm just gonna trade shields with my opponent. If they shield, then I'll shield. If they don't shield, I won't shield. That way I can guarantee switch advantage. And the fighter safe swaps and the fighter leads, like I was saying, are a big reason why I would recommend Kanto Muk, but the Alolan and the Charmers too, because instead of taking neutral damage on the Alolan Muk, it would be resisted, but Alolan Muk has its benefits as well. When it comes Sylveon back in, they shield an EQ, which sort of surprises me because they know I have Alolan Muk waiting for it. Maybe they're just trying to get some chip damage off of my Alolan Muk, and because they stayed in so long, I wanted to shield this Psyshock because maybe they were double weak since they stayed in with their Fairy type, but they weren't. It was a Walrein, so like last time, I'm gonna Acid Spray again. This will make it so an EQ will pretty much take them, will make their Walrein pretty close to being taken out from an EQ from me, while I can still easily take 2 EQs from them. Pretty much just puts me in a good position at this point. I just go for an Icicle Spear because I know that with the Acid Spray debuff, it will be enough to take out their Walrein. It does, and it comes their Sylveon. Sylveon's gonna go for the Charm down to get some energy for my Alolan Muk. I throw a good timing to not let any extra charms through with an Icicle Spear. I go for an Icicle Spear here because I know I'm gonna get to we'll be able to get to 2 Icicle Spears. If I can only get to 1 move, I should go for the EQ. But to get to 2 Icicle Spears puts me in a good position. Just shield their Psyshock again, and I'm able to Poison Jab down for another good game. Get into the next one. Lead Alolan Muk into Walrein. Walrein's a little bit of a tricky lead for us because I can't really swap out. If I go into the mirror, they'll have an energy lead, and they most likely have a good fighting answer like Cresselia in the back, which would be do well against my own back line. So I like to chip their Walrein first. This position, I'm gonna call it they're not running EQ because an EQ won't quite take me out. It's just an Icicle Spear. They have to throw an EQ to take me out in this position, which they do. So now, because most Walrein leads do have a Cresselia in the back, I'm a little worried, but I bring in my Swampert to just load up on energy. Just load up on energy. Hopefully it can be useful against whatever they do have in the back. Luckily, they don't swap in their Cresselia, they swap in their own Swampert. Because I have this much of an energy lead, I can just spam off these Hydro Cannons and threaten shields to see what they want to do. They're going to use their first shield on my next Hydro Cannon. And at this point, I'm going to swap into my Walrein to catch a Hydro Cannon, waste all that energy. Maybe I could have swapped into my own Walrein right away, but maybe they're looking to have me to swap into my Walrein, so if I could get that chip damage off of their Swampert first and still have some energy to spare, I feel like I could do pretty well against her back line. Swampert makes it to one last move. I will shield this one, as it most likely is the EQ, and now I just get to farm down. My opponent lags a little bit, but would have made a difference, and it turns out that they probably were weak to Swampert in the back. So we take the fourth game as well. A pretty nice one. Fighter Lead, Shadow Machamp. I go for Acid Spray in this position just to ramp up my poison jabs. You could go for Dark Pulse too, because that would do a nice chunk of damage since it is a Shadow Machamp. But either way, I have to stay in. I can't swap out. So going for an Acid Spray is fine too, because now these poison jabs are just going to chunk. You are able to tank a cross chop, so you can shield one, let the second one go, whichever one you want to do. And now I go for my second Acid Spray. Maybe it was the right decision going for Acid Spray, because that way I could reach 2 moves, and if I went for Dark Pulse, I could only reach 1. So yeah, it probably works out. But we're able to take out the Shadow Machamp, which hopefully frees up our Walrein, because that, if they're running a fighter in the lead, that's most likely their only answer to a Walrein. So based on that, we're going to save swap our own Walrein into their Walrein, and just go for these EQs. I don't like baiting too much in the Walrein matchup as it's very risky, but obviously in situations where you need to, or they are obviously going to shield, it's going to be quite advantageous to bait. We survive their EQ, and it allows us to get off our own EQ. My opponent's going for the farm down, but not before I can get off a last second Icicle Spear for a little more chip. They farm down, I'll let them farm me down so I could use my Alolan Muk as a sack swap in the end, which I do right here, and I'm able to catch a move. I'm hoping it's an EQ, but they were baiting with an Icicle Spear. Still a nice waste of energy. They have Alolan Muk in the back, and I'm going straight for the EQ. My opponent's win con at this point is calling a Hydro Cannon, because if they shield the EQ, I could just load up another EQ and it would be game over. So my opponent played out their win con, good for them, but luckily for me, I wasn't gonna let that happen. So now I just need to load up to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons to take this Walrein out. We do get to the back-to-back, throw off this first one. Our opponent knows that the game's over at this point, so they just let it go. And with that win, that solidifies a 5-0 in that set. Getting into another set later on. A Charm lead into Sylveon, another fantastic lead. And here's another Obstagoon save swap. So like last time, I'm gonna Acid Spray first. If you're running Kanto Muk, probably just Thunder Punch first and then swap into your Swampert. But I tried to swap into my Swampert there. It was a CMP tie. Alolan Muk tanks that cross shot no problem. We're gonna load up, throw off our Hydro Cannon on what is another CMP tie. Do some nice damage. They're gonna be throwing off most likely a Night Slash here. It is. Hopefully they don't get the boost. They don't. Now I'm gonna load up and go for the farm down. I could have thrown on another CMP tie, but I feel like all this energy on Swampert would be more useful considering the Night Slash doesn't do too much anyways. So waiting to see what they come back in with. It is the Walrein, and I'm gonna go for Hydro Cannon bait here. This is really risky, but because I'm low on health, I think they're expecting me to just go for the EQ. The bait does grab a shield, and because I'm so close to an EQ, I will shield their Icicle Spear because I know I can reach that and either do massive damage on their Walrein or get their final shield. I do get their final shield. This allows me to come in with my Walrein and pretty safely just no shield whatever they throw and go for my own EQs and save my shields for the back end of the match. My opponent's going for the catch. I read that they're gonna catch, so I overfarm, which allows me to just swap in my Alolan Muk, Acid Spray, and then Poison Jab down. Again, in this situation, Kanto Muk would have been so much better because you would resist those charms, and then Alolan Muk, while still doing super effective damage, still take some nice charm damage in return. So again, they both have their pluses and minuses, especially with the Giratina and Cresselia leads that Alolan Muk just walls. So it's all situational, but I feel like, again, the Kanto Muk is just a better choice. But we make do with what we have. Next match, another Walrein lead. So just like last time, I'm gonna stay in, throw a Dark Pulse. And since Walrein love to bait, I'm gonna call it, they're just gonna go Icicle Spear again. Actually, no, I swap out to try and catch the move on my own Walrein. It ends up working out because here's that Cresselia that a lot of Walreins have in the back. They're loading up on energy. I get to another Icicle Spear. And here's a situation why I prefer regular Walrein over Shadow Walrein on this team as well, because you can survive 2 Grass Knots with regular Walrein. You cannot survive 2 Grass Knots with Shadow. So we just get to do Icicle Spam here, as Icicle Spear is more energy efficient as compared to the Earthquake. You're loading up an extra energy. I'm gonna be getting off another Icicle Spear here. And it ends up being a CMP tie, that's perfect. But unfortunately, like I said, we do, in this situation, unfortunately, we do survive 2 Grass Knot, so they get more Psycho Cuts. But in most situations, the Cresselia is not going to throw on CMP, so it would be advantageous. So it is advantageous for the non-Shadow version. We tank that Grass Knot, no problem. In comes their Walrein. They're going to have to throw an EQ to take me out. Since I have 2 shields and Walreins love to bait, I'm expecting an Icicle Spear. Now at this point, I will live another Icicle Spear too. They're going to have to throw an EQ again. So no need for me to shield because I'll be able to get off this Dark Pulse either way. This either takes out their Walrein or gets their first shield. It does get their shield. So I'm going to swap into my Swampert and it puts their Walrein into Hydro Cannon range. But worst backline, Cresselia, Trevenant, worst backline that my backline can see. And we had no shot at winning that, so we just concede. Next match, Toxicroak Lead. Now this is a massive core breaker. So it has access to that super effective Mud Bomb. And unfortunately, we have to stay in because we're ABA weak. So I'm gonna go for the Dark Pulse. Toxicroak's not the tankiest mon ever, so it still does a nice hefty damage. I'm just gonna no shield, which allows me to get to another move. So maybe this is a little mistake too. Maybe I should have Acid Sprayed first and then gone for the Dark Pulse, because at that point the Dark Pulse probably would have killed. And if they committed to the farm down, they would have had to commit a shield of their own. So in comes Swampert, able to farm down their Toxicroak. Giratina comes out to meet it. I'm going straight for this EQ. It does get a shield. I bring in my Swampert, and it's their own Alolan Muk in the back. I'm going to go for another EQ straight away. This is a CMP tie. I'm going to let it go, expecting an Acid Spray bait, because I do have 2 shields again. It is an Acid Spray, so fantastic call by me. We're able to get off this EQ. It gets their final shield, and I'm counting their moves. This is only another Acid Spray, of which, again, we survive. So I'm going to let it go, save my 2 shields in the back end, and get off this EQ, which will take out their Alolan Muk. Now this is very important, my switch timer is coming up, and I'm quad debuffed, so I need to get on out of here, because I need to spare this Walrein for the Giratina. We're able to just get out in time. We are 1 Icicle Spear away, so we're going to have to try and survive a Shadow Claw on the back end with our little health that we do. Hopefully that's a chance. That's a good chance that we have. Dragon Claw comes through. We do survive one, so I let the second one go through. Get off this EQ. This is going to put the Giratina into Icicle Spear range. I save my shield for the Walrein in the back, because they would have to double up on moves. They can't, and we are able to survive that Shadow Claw with 1 HP and take the match. So a very close one, well played to my opponent. Luckily for us, our Walrein's IV is coming in clutch right there. Cresselia Lead, fantastic lead. They swap into Registeel, and we have a great Registeel answer. Now, because they're swapping in Registeel, I'm sort of expecting a Talonflame in the back, which Walrein does fine against with the Icicle Spear spam, so I'm not too worried. They do go for a Focus Blast right away. I'm going to hit this EQ. It's a good chunk of damage. Puts the Registeel in Hydro Cannon range. So I'm going to load up on energy, over farm just a little bit, throw up this Hydro Cannon before they get to another Focus Blast, take them out. In comes the Cresselia, and we get to this EQ on a CMP tie. This is best case scenario. Land some big chip damage, and the Cresselia doesn't get to over farm for us, against us. So that's fantastic. I'm going to come into my Alolan Muk right away. And they actually have a Swampert in the back, not a Talonflame. It's even better. Walrein beats that as well, and we're able to take that one. Perrserker Lead, another interesting lead, since it has access to close combat, which is a good number to our Alolan Muk. And it seems like they're loading up to back-to-back close combats. Maybe it could have tried to go for a CMP tie on their back-to-back just to guarantee a shield from their end. This is fine too. We're going to let the first close combat go, and we're going to swap right away into our Swampert to try and catch the second one, but they hold on to their energy, bring in the Cresselia. Else is bad, because I couldn't really swap Walrein into the Perrserker, which would lure out the Cresselia, so I sort of have to swap the Swampert, and now we have a Swampert up against a Cresselia. This Grass Knot chunks, and again, Regular Swampert over Shadow Swampert. You survive the Grass Knot, allowing me to get to another EQ. Massive right there. So now I'm hoping that my Walrein can clean up in the back since their Cresselia is out of the way. Cresselia throws a move right away. It's the Moonblast. That's fine. I go to commit for the Poison Jab down, but my opponent smartly swaps in their Perrserker to not let that happen. And now I'm just going to commit to a Powder Snow down with my Walrein. I will have to shield up a move. This close combat would do massive damage, but I can farm all the way down, no issues. Now it's one shield, my one shield Walrein with energy against whatever Mon they have in the back with 2 shields. And it's Talonflame. So I have a pretty good chance here. All I just need to do is throw 2 Powder Snows and an Icicle Spear, and we spam off those moves. I know a Brave Bird won't take out my Walrein at this HP, so I'm gonna call that they're gonna Flame Charge first. And perhaps that could be a mistake by me, because if they land a Brave Bird, it's gonna make it very close. But if they do bait with Flame Charge, they'll most likely win the match. And now they do, and they do go straight for the Brave Bird. Brings my Walrein very low, very, very low. And I have to commit to a Powder Snow down, so I have 2 moves to throw out this Talonflame. First move, this is gonna get their shield, and if I survive this Flame Charge, this Incinerate, I'll win the match, but I just barely feint to it, and we lose a very close game. So if I did shield that Brave Bird, I would have ended up winning, but either way, it made it a very, very close game. So thank you guys so much for watching. I highly recommend you try out this team if you're not sure what to run in the Ultra League right now, or you're just sick of the Little Cup remix. Very strong one, about 150 points in a single day, very affordable too. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you guys have to say. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.